Yesterday or earlier this week, I talked about how this is approaching personal with me. I'm going to try and not get as loud as I got a couple of days ago, but I really want to talk about what this means. I want to talk about the process, an appropriations process where every single member voted for this bill. What we're trying to do now is have the broader membership vote for it and send it out of the chamber. I wouldn't be surprised if you went on their social media presences or if you took a look at press releases that they rightfully announced to their constituents how they voted to support a bipartisan appropriations bill coming out of committee. Now I want them to follow up with a press statement that says Harry Reid tells me I've got to vote no now. I've got to say no to troops. I'm not going to support providing critical funding for training and readiness and overseas contingency operations. I don't know about you all in the gallery or people watching on C-SPAN. I don't feel particularly comfortable with the situation around the globe. I don't like what Russia's doing. So we have to put resources in portions of Europe to make sure that we can counter the potential threat there. I don't like what China's doing in the South China Sea. So we're having to pay more attention to that and have resources looking at it to protect that region. I generally don't like what Iran's doing. I mean, they've welched on commitments that they made in the Iran nuclear deal. They're funding Hezbollah and Hamas and the Iran terror network across the nation, including this hemisphere. I don't like what's going on in Syria. I think Iraq has problems, much of it created as a result of the president's withdrawal. Well, good news. He recognizes that maybe we need to increase our presence there. How are we going to pay for those extra 560 soldiers that are going to go and secure the airstrip that was won over by the Iraqi forces? Where's it come from? Well, that's a commitment that he's made, so it's going to come from somewhere else. And it's certainly not going to come from the increased funding that we're trying to get through this appropriations bill. I don't know about you all, but I believe the generals and intelligence community that come before our committee and say that we're in some of the most dangerous times in their lives. The threats are everywhere. America has to lead because when America doesn't lead, the world is a less safe place. America leads. The tip of the spear is our armed services, our presence across the globe to protect the freedom of other nations and to protect our own freedom. Failing to vote for this bill is failing to make sure that they're trained, equipped, and capable of defending freedom. Now I want to talk about the personal side of things for the folks down at Fort Bragg and Camp Lejeune and New River and Cherry Point, Marines, people in the 82nd Airborne, the 18th Airborne Corps, the conversations I bet they're having with their husband or wife. When they come home from training and they hear that the commanders down at Fort Bragg say, we're just not getting enough repetition in. We're trying to teach these men and women how to jump out of planes in hostile situations with 100 pounds of equipment connected to them and do that safely. I don't know about many people, but I don't think I'd want to do that if I wasn't trained and ready and had the muscle memory to make sure I was going to do that safely. The Global Response Force down at Fort Bragg takes it to another level. They not only have to drop 1,000 or so men or women out of planes, they also have to drop entire cities out of planes. Earth movers, weather stations, medical hospitals, all the things that you need to provide relief in the event of a disaster or that you need to support a combat operation. We're sapping the resources to be able to do that. So here's how the discussion, I think, goes with a man or woman who goes home before they get deployed. Honey, I'm about to be deployed somewhere. Maybe it's Iraq, maybe it's Afghanistan, some other part of the world. And I'm a little bit nervous because I only got about 80% of the training I really needed that the Army or the Air Force or the Marines deem necessary for me to be able to do that job safely and be certain that I can complete the mission. I'm sorry, hon, I've sworn to defend this country, so I'm going to do it. But I know that I'm not at the level of training and capability that I should be. And then they say goodbye, and that spouse, hopefully, sees that person come home again. So, you know, guys, politics is an interesting thing. Debate is an interesting thing. We've heard the theater on the floor today that has nothing to do with the votes that we have before us. We've heard global warming. We've heard all of these other things. Some people lead you to believe it's changed since they voted for it. It hasn't changed. It's precisely the same bill. But they've got a minority leader who says, don't vote for it. Play my game. Let us then come down here and say, do your job. We're doing our job right now. Joni Ernst is doing her job. Dan Sullivan's doing her job. Steve Daines is doing his job. I'm doing my job by saying, you guys went into a committee and you voted for this bill. You went home and told everybody you're supporting your troops. Now you've got a minority leader that's telling you, don't do your job, and let's go on the floor and pretend that those of us who want to support our troops aren't doing our job. It's disingenuous at best, and it's dishonest at worst. And Mr. President and my colleagues here, we need to pound this issue. I need to go home and and be able to tell a story and say, we support you, Fort Bragg. We support you, and we're going to do everything we can to get this bill passed.